Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, "Oh my God, Thou hast told me, plunge into matter and identify Thyself with it. It is there that I would manifest, and Thy will has been done, but matter has ignored the gift and persists in wanting to seek in obscure and false activities and relations a satisfaction which it cannot find there. And yet Thou hast promised me the victory. With love and blessing, says our Divine Mother." Words of Sri Aurobindo from the book The Mother, Chapter 3, page 9. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, "To walk through life armored against all fear, peril, and disaster, only two things are needed, two that go always together, two that goes always together: the grace of the Divine Mother, and on your side, an inner state made up of faith, sincerity, and surrender. Let your faith be pure, candid, and perfect. An egoistic faith in the mental and vital being, tainted by ambition, pride, vanity, mental arrogance, vital self-will, personal demand, desire for the petty satisfactions of the lower nature, is a low and smoke-obscured flame that cannot burn upwards to heaven. Regard your life," says our Lord Sri Aurobindo, "regard your life as given you only for the divine work and to help in the divine manifestation. Desire nothing but the purity, force, light, wideness, calm, ananda of the divine consciousness, and its insistence to transform and perfect your mind, life, and body. Ask for nothing but the divine, spiritual, and supramental truth, its realization on earth and in you and in all who are called and chosen, and the conditions needed for its creation and its victory over all opposing forces." Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, "Let your sincerity and surrender be genuine and entire. When you give yourself, give completely, without demand, without condition, without reservation, so that all in you shall belong to the Divine Mother, and nothing be left to the ego or given to any other power. The more complete your faith, sincerity, and surrender, the more will grace and protection be with you. The more complete your faith, sincerity, and surrender, the more will grace and protection be with you. And when the grace and protection of the Divine Mother are with you, what is there that can touch you, or whom need you fear? A little of it even will carry you through all difficulties, obstacles, and dangers. Surrounded by its full presence, you can go securely on your way, because it is hers, careless of all menace, unaffected by any hostility, however powerful, whether from this world or from worlds invisible. Its touch can turn difficulties into opportunities, failure into success, weakness into unfaltering strength. For the grace of the Divine Mother is the sanction of the Supreme. For the grace of the Divine Mother is the sanction of the Supreme, and now or tomorrow its effect is sure, a thing decreed, inevitable and irresistible. Words of our Divine Mother. Topic: The Divine gives Himself. Question: Sweet Mother, what is meant by the Divine gives Himself? For this, our Divine Mother says, it means exactly this, that the more you give yourself, the more you have the experience. It is not just a feeling or impression or sensation, it is a total experience that the more you give yourself to the Divine, the more He is with you, totally, constantly, at every minute, in all your thoughts, all your needs, and there's no aspiration which does not receive an immediate answer, and you have the sense of a complete and constant intimacy of a total nearness. It is as though you carried, as though the Divine were all the time with you. You walk, He walks with you. You sleep, He sleeps with you. You eat, and He eats with you. You think, He thinks with you. You love, and He is the love you have. But for this, one must give himself entirely, totally, exclusively, reserve nothing, keep nothing for himself, and
answer to the mighty shape. And as she spoke, mortality disappeared. Her goddess self grew visible in her eyes. Light came, a dream of heaven, into her face.
our Divine Mother says, but for this one must give himself entirely, totally, exclusively, reserve nothing, keep nothing for himself, and not keep back anything, not disperse anything also. The least little thing in your being which is not given to the Divine is a waste. It is the wasting of your joy, something that lessens your happiness by that much. And all that you don't give to the Divine is as though you were holding it in the way of the possibility of the Divine's giving Himself to you. You do not feel Him close to yourself, constantly with you, because you don't belong to Him, because you belong to hundreds of other things and people in your thought, your action, your feelings and impulses. There are millions of things which you do not give Him, and that is why you don't feel Him always with you, because all these things are so many screens and walls between Him and you. If you give everything, if you keep back nothing, He will be constantly and totally with you in all that you do, in all that you think, all that you feel, always, at each moment. But for this, you must give yourself absolutely. Keep back nothing. Each little thing that you hold back is a stone you put down to build a wall between the Divine and yourself. And later on you complain, oh, I do not feel Him, says our Divine Mother. Next, the law of sacrifice. The law of sacrifice, says our Lord, is the common divine action that was thrown out into the world in its beginning as a symbol of the solidarity of the universe. It is by the attraction of this law that a divinizing, a saving power descends to limit and correct and gradually to eliminate the errors of an egoistic and self-divided creation. This descent, this sacrifice of the Purusha, the divine soul submitting itself to the force and matter so that it may inform and illuminate them, is the seed of the redemption of this world of inconscience and ignorance. For with sacrifice as their companion, says the Gita, with sacrifice as their companion, the All Father created these peoples. The acceptance of the law
Radiant altitudes exposed to the luster of infinity. Outskirts and dependencies of the house of truth. A cosmic soul spreads out its vastitude. Its smallest parts are here. Philosophies challenging with their detailed immensity.
The acceptance of the law of sacrifice is a practical recognition of the ego that is neither alone in the world nor chief in the world. It is its admission that even in this much fragmented existence, there is beyond itself and beyond that which is not its own egoistic person, something greater and completer, a diviner all which demands from its subordination and service. Question, sweet mother, what does the sacrifice of the divine by our Lord mean? For this our divine mother says it is self-giving. It is the word that Gita uses for self-giving. Only the sacrifice is mutual. This is what Aurobindo says at the beginning. Divine has sacrificed himself in matter to awaken consciousness in matter, which has become inconscient. And it is this sacrifice, this giving of the divine in matter, that is to say, his dispersion in matter, which justifies the sacrifice of matter to the divine and makes it obligatory. For it is one and the same reciprocal moment. It is because the divine has given himself in matter and scattered himself everywhere in matter to awaken it to the divine consciousness that matter is automatically under the obligation to give itself to the divine. It is a mutual and reciprocal sacrifice, and this is the great secret of the Gita. The affirmation of the divine presence is in the very heart of matter, and that is why matter must sacrifice itself to the divine automatically, even unconsciously, whether one wants it or not. This is what happens. Only when it is done unconsciously, one doesn't have the joy of sacrifice. While if it is done consciously, one has the joy of sacrifice, which is the supreme joy. The word sacrifice in French has slightly too narrow a sense, which it does not have in original Sanskrit, for in French, sacrifice implies a sort of suffering, almost a regret, while in Sanskrit, this sense is not there at all. It corresponds to a self-giving. But how can a sacrifice be made when one is unconscious, sweet mother? For this, our divine mother says it is made automatically. Whether you know it or not, whether you want it or not, you are all united by the divine presence, which though it appears fragmented, is yet one. The divine is one. He only appears fragmented in things and beings. And because this unity is a fact, whether you are aware of it or not, doesn't alter the fact at all. And whether you want it or not, you are, in spite of everything, subject to this unity. This is what I have explained to you. I don't know how many times you are separate from one another. You think you are separate from one another, but it is the same single substance which is in you in all, despite differences in appearance and vibration in one center automatically awakens a vibration in another. These are taken from the book Living Words, The Guide and the Helper, page 140. These are the words of our Lord Aurobindo and our Divine Mother.